This podcast is made possible by our supporters on Patreon, who pledge an amount to contribute every month and in return get exclusive access to bonus content, merchandise discounts, and much more. If you'd like to join our family and help us continue to bring you the very best in audio drama, please go to patreon.com/Gotham Variety and subscribe. That's Patreon/Gotham Variety.
And now, from New York, the Gotham Variety Podcast, in a unique series of theatrical productions. And here's your producer and host, Joe Rubenstein.
Greetings and welcome to Season 1, Episode 1. We are beyond excited, ecstatic really, to finally bring you many different kinds of stories over these next few months. As for tonight's, The Bridge by Ambrose Bierce. I think the less said the better here at the outset. I don't want to give anything away. It's a groundbreaking story in many ways, but especially in its unorthodox handling of time. Bierce was a journalist, he was a literary critic, and wrote fiction in really every conceivable genre, but often of the dark and disturbing variety. Now, relevant to our story tonight, he enlisted in the Union Army immediately after the Civil War broke out, and actually fought in many famous battles, including the Battle of Shiloh in Tennessee. His death, or let's say disappearance, in 1913 is shrouded in mystery, but we'll talk about that after tonight's story, The Bridge, right after this.
You can follow us on Twitter at Gotham Variety, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. We're on Spotify as well. Check out our website at gothamvariety.com, where you can send us your comments and questions. And if you love what we're doing, we'd love a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. Reviews and ratings help keep our show on the charts, so more and more people can find us. The Bridge. Chapter 1.
On a warm spring day in northern Alabama, in the year 1865, a man with a rope around his neck stands on a railroad bridge, staring down into the swift water 20 feet below. His hands are behind his back, wrists bound with a cord. Loose boards laid upon the ties supporting the rails supply footing for the man and his executioners, 2 privates of the Union Army directed by a sergeant.
Isn't this the moment when everything, your whole life, from childhood to the present, is supposed to flash before your eyes? It's what they say. But how could they know? No one's come back from this. None but Christ himself.
A sentinel at each end of the bridge stands stiffly at attention, rifle in front of the left shoulder, hammer resting on the forearm thrown straight across the chest.
No flashing visions. Nothing at all. Just these godless Yankees. And that filthy vulture circling about, waiting to pick my bones. Even if by some miracle I could break loose and escape, there's got to be a Union outpost further along. No. Resign yourself. God's will be done.
The company faces the bridge, staring, motionless. Death, when he comes announced, is a dignitary, to be received with every formal manifestation of respect, even by men such as these, who are most familiar with his handiwork.
When I'm dead, they'll go about their business. By dusk, the entire incident will have been forgotten. An event of little consequence. Oh God, be with me.
Peyton Forrest, the man to be hanged, is a civilian and a planter, 43 years old. He has an aquiline nose, firm mouth, and broad forehead, from which his long, dark hair is combed straight back, falling behind his ears to the collar of his well-fitting tan coat.
Lord Jesus, pour into me the spirit of your love, that in the hour of my death, I may be worthy to vanquish the enemy and receive the heavenly crown. Amen.
The two sentinels step aside, each drawing away the plank he's been standing on. The sergeant turns to the captain and salutes, placing himself just behind that officer, who moves apart one pace, leaving Peyton and the sergeant standing face to face on opposite ends of the same plank.
At the captain's signal, the sergeant will step aside, plank will tilt, and I will drop, neck broke. Simple, foolproof, irreversible.
He closes his eyes, trying desperately to fix his final thoughts upon his wife and children. But now he is conscious of a new disturbance, a sound he can neither ignore nor comprehend.
Can't tell if it's miles away or inside my ear. Seems both. The delays in between, that's what's maddening. I won't scream. No. I'll deny them that satisfaction at least.
He glances down and identifies the source. It is the ticking of his watch.
If I could free my hands, throw off the noose and dive into the stream, I could easily evade the bullets underwater, swim to the bank, and then away home through the woods. God willing, Leslie and the children are still beyond Sherman's farthest advance.
But when Peyton sees the captain nod to the sergeant, he abandons all hope, closing his eyes for the very last time. The sergeant steps aside.
Chapter 2.
Peyton Forrest comes from an old, well-respected Alabama family. Too old for a soldier, no service has been too humble for him to perform in aid of the Confederacy, no adventure too perilous. 2 days before the occurrence on the bridge, Peyton and his wife Leslie were relaxing on a bench near the entrance to their spacious grounds when a soldier dressed in gray rode through the gate.
Evening, sir. Ma'am.
Evening, Corporal.
Could I trouble y'all for a drink of water? I'm plumb tuckered out.
Of course.
Sit, Peyton. I'll get it.
Much obliged, ma'am.
What unit are you with, Corporal?
13th of Georgia, sir, under General Liddell. Seem to have gotten myself a mite separated.
Any news from the front?
Yes, sir. All bad. Yanks got Spanish forts surrounded, and now they're fixing to cross Owl Creek Bridge. After that, they'll head on to Fort Blakely, I reckon.
Then why in heaven's name is that bridge still standing?
Can't get close, sir. Maybe someone like yourself, a lone civilian, could. But them Unions catch a peek of one of us in gray, we'd be worm food faster than you can blink.
Owl Creek. I know that bridge. 20 miles down yonder, isn't it?
Just about. Less than, I'd say.
And if it were to be destroyed?
That'd hold up them Yanks for quite a spell, I reckon. If not, Atlanta's done for.
How many guard the bridge?
Most of the time, just one lone bitty sentinel. Asleep half the time from the looks of it.
And if he could be overpowered?
Well, that wood looks mighty dry to me. Fella had the gumption, set a spark to it, that bridge would go up right quick, and not a dang thing them Yanks could do except watch her burn.
I see.
Of course, fella gets caught. That ain't no slap on the wrist, you understand. He'd be dancing from the end of a rope.
Here you are, young man. Fresh out of the well.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
Anything for our boys.
Spirit of the South comes from ladies like yourself. Anyway, that's what my pa said, and I say it just the same.
Well, what a gallant remark.
With the added benefit of being true.
Well, sure has been nice sitting with you fine folks, but I best be getting on.
Godspeed, Corporal.
Yep. Like I said, nothing they could do but watch her burn.
I'll keep it in mind.
You come see us again now, you hear?
I just might up and do that.
Peyton,
Yes, dear?
what did he mean? Watch who burn?
Oh, no one. My, you look pretty in that light.
Peyton Edward Forrest, you speak your piece right quick, and I want all of it now.
All right. Listen, darling. I'm gonna be taking a little trip.
When?
Leave tonight.
Oh. You have to?
Won't be gone more than 2 days, if that.
Well, I guess I know enough by now not to ask where you'll be going, but you'll be back?
Of course, honey. I'll be back.
Promise?
Promise.
An hour later, after nightfall, the corporal in gray rode by the plantation once more, this time headed northward, the direction from which he'd come. The corporal was a Union scout.
Chapter 3.
As Peyton tumbles through the bridge, he loses consciousness. Then, ages later it seems, he is awakened by severe pain, an intense pressure on the throat, followed by a sense of suffocation. He is aware of motion, and then the surrounding light shoots upward with the roar of a deafening splash. Now, all is cold and dark, and yet, his power of thought is restored.
Rope broke. Praise God, the rope broke.
The water offers no additional strangulation. The noose already suffocating him prevents water from entering the lungs.
Just calm down. Get your hands free. That's it. Rope slackening. Now the one around your neck. There it is. All right now. Air.
He opens his eyes in the murky water and looks up at the gleam of light above.
So far away.
But then, something shifts in his motion, and the light begins to grow, widening, brightening.
Well, to be hanged and drowned, that wasn't so bad. But to be shot too? No, sir. Not all three in one day.
His neck aches. His brain is on fire. His heart feels as if it's trying to force its way through his mouth. And yet, he remains in full possession of his senses. Something in this dreadful disturbance of his organic system has refined them to the point where they're incredibly alert, recording things he has never before perceived.
Reborn. Like I'm reborn.
He looks at the forest on the bank and sees the trees. Then the leaves. The veins of each leaf. And the very insects upon them. Locusts. Brilliant-bodied flies. Gray spiders stretching their webs from twig to twig.
My goodness.
He notes the prismatic colors in the dewdrops on a million blades of grass. The humming of the gnats which dance above the stream. The beating of dragonflies' wings. A fish slides like quicksilver beneath his eyes, and he hears the rush of its body as it parts the water.
Glory of God.
He spots one of the sentinels, a cloud of blue smoke rising from the muzzle of his gun. And now he is looking into the very eye of the man who is trying to kill him. He sees it, gazing into his own through the sights of the rifle.
Gray. I remember reading somewhere the gray eyes are the sharpest, that all the famous marksmen have them. And yet, he missed.
There he is, right there. See him? Attention! Shoulder arm. Ready? And fire!
Through the roar of the water, he hears the dull thunder of the volley, and rising again toward the surface, meets shining, flattened bits of metal, oscillating slowly downward.
Was under longer than I thought. Much further downstream now. Closer to safety. Closer to home. Now that officer will give the command to fire at will. God help me, I can't dodge them all. Cannon's taking a hand in the game.
But now he feels himself being whirled round and round. He is caught in a vortex, whirled onward with a velocity and gyration that makes him giddy and sick. Finally, he is flung upon the gravel at the foot of the southern bank, behind a projecting point which conceals him from his enemies.
Oh, bless this earth. Oh, God, bless this sand of the South, like diamonds, rubies, emeralds, everything precious.
Almost content to remain in this enchanted spot until I'm retaken. Cannoneer, firing a random farewell. Well, so long, friend.
Chapter 4. The final chapter.
All day he travels, laying his course by the sun. The forest seems endless. Nowhere does he discover even a woodman's road.
Lived here all my life, yet somehow I never knew it was so wild a region. There, a road.
No fields border the path. No houses are visible in the surrounding area.
Not so much as the bark of a dog suggests human habitation. But somehow, I know this is right. This is the road home.
Overhead, the great golden stars look somehow unfamiliar, grouped in bizarre constellations.
I'm quite sure they're arranged in an order which has some secret significance. Maybe one day, I'll know what it is.
Lifting his hand to his aching neck, he finds it horribly swollen. His eyes are too congested to close. His mouth is dry, tongue parched, but still he moves forward, as if in a dream.
How softly the earth carpets this untraveled road. I can barely feel it beneath my feet.
Despite his discomfort, he has undoubtedly fallen asleep while walking, or perhaps merely recovered from his delirium. For now, his tired eyes rest upon a sight almost too beautiful to behold, yet entirely familiar. The gate of his very own home, bright and majestic now, in the pinkish light of dawn.
Journey's end. I've traveled the entire night. Leslie. Oh, how beautiful she is.
At the bottom of the steps, she stands waiting, a smile of ineffable joy lighting her soft features.
Peyton, you've come back to me.
I promised, didn't I?
You promised.
A gentleman always keeps his promises.
Yes, my love.
He springs forward, arms extended, and just at the moment when he's about to clasp her to his beating heart, he feels a stunning blow on the back of the neck. A blinding white light blazes all around him with a sound like the shock of cannon fire. And then, all is darkness. Darkness and silence. Peyton Forrest is dead. His body, with a broken neck, swings gently from side to side beneath the timbers of the Owl Creek Bridge.
Tonight's cast was led by Vince Phillip as Peyton Forrest, Molly Wheaton played his wife Leslie, Stephen Lowe was our Union Scout, and the narrator was Brian Alford. Tonight's production was based on the story An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge by Ambrose Bierce. It was adapted by yours truly, and I did the music and sound for tonight's episode as well. Final thoughts right after this.
Your feedback is important to us. On Twitter, @Gotham Variety, on our Facebook page, or you can email the program, joe@gothamvariety.com. Really, however you'd like to engage with us, we love engaging with you. And if you'd like to join our family and get exclusive access to bonus content, please go to patreon.com/GothamVariety and subscribe.
I mentioned that Ambrose Bierce disappeared, and it really is like something out of his own fiction. So, in October of 1913, he left Washington, D.C. for a tour of his old Civil War battlefields. By December, he had crossed into Mexico, which was in the middle of a revolution at that time. He joined Pancho Villa's army as an observer. Remember, I said he was a journalist. And his last communication with the world was a letter to Blanche Partington, a close friend, dated December 26, 1913. And the final words of that letter were, "As to me, I leave here tomorrow for an unknown destination." And with that, he disappeared without a trace. There was an official investigation by U.S. consular officials. Villa's men were questioned. They gave contradictory accounts. Bottom line, despite an abundance of theories, his body was never found, and the details of his ultimate fate remain unknown. And on that mysterious note, it is time to close. Thanks so much for joining us for this maiden voyage of Gotham Variety. We'll see you back here September 15th for episode 2. Take care.